Talk. My name is Aaron, and our guest today has spent the last 10 plus years as a Nike Global Trainer and has been featured in the Nike Club app, Training Club app, leading a popular Strength for Beginners program. In 2016, I know she won the Women's Health Next Fitness Star contest, and in 2017, she published the Women's Guide to Strength Training. I know she's been very active in a number of other ventures, I believe a podcast, the Nike Well Collective. I'm sure she'll tell us about many more of those, but she is Bettina Gozzo, and she is here to tell us all about her experiences as a trainer and her book, Women's Muscle and Strength, Get Lean, Strong, and Confident. So again, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Aaron, thank you for that intro. I really appreciate it.
So I did give that summary of your background and some of your accomplishments, but I'm interested, how did you get here? How did you get to this point? You know, when and why did you decide to kind of build a career in fitness? And how did you end up as a Nike Global Trainer?
This is one of my favorite things to share because I feel like a lot of people assume that because I am this fitness quote unquote star that I have been working out my whole life, that I played a ton of sports, but that is in fact not true. I used to dance a little bit when I was in middle school. I played a little volleyball, but never anything in college. I actually used to play in a band for a living.
Oh, nice.
And that was my trade.
Cool.
Yes, and so I danced around with a bass guitar, which isn't light, mind you. And right. We danced around for 90 plus minutes, and having to entertain people was definitely a workout in itself. But I never incorporated any sort of strength training. And with me being able to dance around on stage, I really thought that I was someone that was in shape. But I was humbly reminded that I wasn't when my best friend kept going to this class, and one day I decided to go with her, and it was a boot camp style class. I remember I looked over at her, and she had the 10-pound dumbbells. And I remember being like, oh my gosh, Corey, you are insane. Like, that is crazy. And I could barely, I had the 5-pound dumbbells. That's what I started with. And in that class, I remember feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't do any of this stuff. And Corey's just crushing it. And the competitive part of me was like, oh, I need to keep coming back so I can keep up with her, And then eventually I just kept going and going. And then I loved seeing all of these changes happen in my body and my mind. So not only was I getting stronger, not only could I eventually get the 7.5s and then the 10-pound dumbbells, but eventually I was bringing on the 12.5s and the 15 pounds. But not only that, I started to see so many other changes in my life. Like, as someone that played in a band, we played all the bars, all the venues that love to serve us alcohol. So I was constantly on stage drinking alcohol, taking shots on stage, and eating all of the gas station food at our late stops after the shows, eating all the bar food. And after I started seeing my strength increase and feeling really good in those classes, I started to make those shifts. Instead of going for the gummy bears at the gas station, I was like, you know what? Let me just get some hydration and get some sleep instead. I would instead at the bar not opt for the tequila shot. I would just get a nice water. I started seeing all these different changes, but when it became to being a trainer, I started seeing all these changes happen in myself. But I decided to become a trainer because my band members, they started to see me doing all these things before shows. I was doing planks, I was doing squats, I was doing things to get myself ready so I can sustain my energy for the whole night and also feel really good and not be sore. And I could see the influence that I was making on them. And that's when I said, you know what, I need to make a little extra money. Why don't I get my personal training certification? Why don't I start teaching group classes? And from there, it just kind of snowballed into this big passion of mine. I started to see so many more changes happen, not only in my life, but so many other people's lives. And specifically women, I love to show women how empowering strength can be, not only in your body, but in your mind and all of the other things that you can do in life. It gives you so much more confidence to walk into meetings and to talk in your relationship, speak and be present instead of just showing up all timid, exposing yourself to hard things like strength training really builds that resilience. So I've been really loving that. And then to answer the last part of that, the Nike Global Trainer thing, I think I just was so passionate about what I did. I was working in all the places. I had one place that I worked at where I was really invested in, and a woman was taking my class every single week. And one day she came up to me and she said, "Hey, I actually work for Nike and I want to see if you wanted to go out to lunch and chat about a few things." And Aaron, I'll tell you that I swear I thought I was being punked
Right.
because I said,
Right.
"Wait, Nike?
Yeah.
Like literally Nike? Like, this is my dream brand." And so
Right.
it's kind of a history from there. It was at this point 10 plus years. Actually, it was 2013. And after that, I just started rolling. I think I just stayed really passionate about not only strength training, but being the representation as someone that's Filipino and of color and a woman. And it's really driven me over these past years. And Nike has really helped me embrace that and help me showcase that. So I'm really, really proud of that.
That's awesome. It's such a great story. I'm really glad. I know you said that you love to tell that story, but I enjoyed hearing
Oh,
the full story there. So
thank you.
that's great. And it also made me think about, we hear about, bands and maybe pop stars, and we don't necessarily initially associate fitness with them because we're looking at them as a different form of entertainment. But
100%.
then every now and then you do hear like someone's getting ready to go on a long tour, and what do? They hook up with a trainer and they start training because they know the toll that it's going to take on their
Oh
body. So that's
my
a great
gosh.
story to share.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's incredible to see. I mean, I've loved seeing, Miley and Taylor and Lizzo like
Mhm.
running on the treadmills and singing, because
Yeah.
really you have to have that. It's a different kind of endurance, and I'm assuming they incorporate strength training in there too. So and their dance moves, they're getting up and down
Yep.
off the ground, so you need that strength training.
Right. Exactly. Now you touched on this a little bit, but I mean the title of the book obviously is muscle or women's muscle and strength. And in the book you talk about obviously the importance of strength training for women. So I guess what are some of those reasons specifically? Why is it so important for women? And again, why did you want to target women in this book?
Yeah, I think obviously there's so many scientific things that it benefits for women. Obviously we're losing bone density every single year, and like, you can help target your periods every single month and help you feel better. But the thing that's most important to me is really the confidence aspect.
Okay.
I think that a lot of women don't understand, like, a lot of us have so much pressure that we're putting on ourselves, and to incorporate strength training into your life is going to really build that resilience, build that neuroplasticity, really just help you overall build confidence for you to do all of those things like I mentioned, going into meetings, having hard conversations, and really surprise yourself with how much better you can be beyond just being a woman, like just being a strong woman, to be able to move all the things that you don't. One of my favorite things is just being able to grab the suitcase
Yeah.
in the whenever you're at the airport, like in the airplane by myself, and not have to have anyone help me. It's like such a proud thing. I love the other day I had to grab this big thing when I carried my bees home. I had all these buckets of, I think it was like three, like I don't even know how big it was, but it was like 5 gallons of syrup
Okay.
for my bees. And the guy was like, "Do you need help?" I was like, "No, I'm good." And I'm sitting there lugging them away, and they're just like, "Wow, this," and I'm only like 5'2",
Right.
so people are like, "Wow." And I think that's inspiring for other women. And um, uh, to add on that too, as a woman that is also a mother of a daughter, I really love being that example. So if you're a woman and you have a lot of people out there that look up to you, it may not be a daughter, but maybe you're a teacher and you have people that look up to you, to be able to show that strength is just so important.
Mhm. And I love that confidence factor that you mentioned. I train more so, middle school, high school athletes, but even at that age,
Yes.
I can see the difference too in a lot of the girls, just the confidence that they get in, even maybe they're seeing a guy their age or maybe a guy a little bit older lifting a certain amount of weight, and then they think, hey, I can do that too. And then suddenly that confidence starts to build. So it really is amazing.
It's really, really awesome. And and functionality wise, like just knowing that I mentioned confidence, but being able to carry something on my own, like that's really great. And just like, if most women want to make one trip from the car with all the
Right.
groceries, So you got to have
Yep.
strength for that. I mean, I think carries are the most underrated exercise out there. And thankfully for Instagram, I feel like they've been a little more popular. Now people know what carries are and
Right.
suitcase carry and all those things. But still, I think that they are a little underrated and people don't understand how important those functional exercises are, not just for your grip strength, but for your core
Oh
strength
yeah.
and being able to function throughout the day. I think a lot of people don't give enough credit to understand like how strong your core needs to be, but you don't need to do crunches and
Mhm.
sit-ups. Like all the other strength training that you're doing is going to help you build that strong foundation for your core.
Yep, and I love that you mentioned a lot of that in the book, and I'll mention this again at the end. But you have tons of exercise ideas and full color photos and descriptions to really help people along with that. So
Yeah.
something else that you did talk about, maybe more so than some of the other sections, was pregnancy, and I know you mentioned being a mother. So I did want to definitely ask about that. Now, I've I've trained women, but I have never actually trained one through pregnancy. So
Mhm.
I know that there's some debate on what is good, what
Sure.
is bad. So like I guess really help us, separate myth from fact, and what really is appropriate for someone who's going through a pregnancy to do as far as
Of course.
exercise.
So, first and foremost, of course, you have to make sure that your healthcare provider says that it's okay for you to exercise. Most exercise for pregnant women is safe as long as they've done the exercise before. But one thing that I'll say is that a lot of people say if you haven't done it before, you can't start while you're pregnant. That's false because
Okay.
if you're pregnant and you've never done strength training before, you should start a little strength training. Well, I don't want you doing cleans, I don't want you doing snatches, but you should definitely incorporate strength training to help with all the different changes that are happening in your body. You're getting center of gravity shifts with your belly growing. Your posture is going to start to grow as everything starts to shift forward. So strengthening your back muscles, strengthening your legs to be able to carry all the new weight that you're going to be carrying around over the next few months is really important. So with that, of course, there are so many other things that you have to consider. I think that a lot of people are so careful about the woman that's pregnant, but a woman that's pregnant is really
Right.
strong, and there's a women's bodies can do a lot. I think more so women need to be more careful when they're in the postpartum
Okay.
stages, especially in those early stages, because a lot of people assume, okay, you have the baby, and then no one really they're like, okay, baby, they're thinking about is the baby.
Mhm.
But postpartum, you get cleared at 6 weeks, and then the doctor says you can do whatever you're doing, just start slow. But there's so much more to it. You have to reconnect to your breath, you have to reconnect to your core, you have to recoordinate your mind and your body to move in these faster movements. If you're wanting to run or do anything that you used to do, like cleans, if you were someone that's doing Olympic lifting, you have to have that coordination back. And so I think that postpartum, you have to be more careful than you are uh, in the pregnancy stages.
Okay.
Obviously, I know some people are like, no, you can't do everything when you're pregnant. Obviously, I don't want anyone snowboarding. I don't want
Right.
anyone doing anything that's high impact. But for the most part, things are safe. Rotation. That's a big myth that people say you can't do. Rotation, obviously, you don't want to do any ringing of the belly, but when you're putting your seatbelt on every day, you are rotating. When I
Right.
have a kid, when I was pregnant with my second, I had to get the snack from the floor when she dropped it. So I was constantly rotating. So making sure your hips and your shoulders are stacked when you're doing a rotation is totally okay. And it's also very functional in life. To be able to learn how to rotate properly is good while you're pregnant, but I just wouldn't do any ringing. So that's a big
Okay.
myth that a lot of people mention is, oh, rotation. Rotation is absolutely safe as long as you're making sure everything is like kind of stacked and in line. And then
Okay.
obviously you want to really focus on your core um, management. So not having too much core pressure. A lot of people have heard about coning. As your belly grows, like you'll literally see a cone if you're not managing your core pressure too much. So that's something to consider. If you're someone that is pregnant and you want to take that journey of fitness, I would just make sure that you've consulted in one or two people that know what they're doing and make sure your workouts are safe. But for the most part, you can do a lot of the things you're doing. Just listen to your body. The RPE scale, rate of
Mhm.
perceived exertion scale, is very useful. I wouldn't track your heart rate because naturally our heart rate levels are a little bit higher now. In fact, that's how I knew I was
Right.
pregnant. with
Okay.
my second, because I wear my Aura ring every single night and tracks my sleep. And I knew I started to notice my resting heart rate was elevated every day. And I was like, this is happening for 2 weeks and I don't think this is right. So
Right.
it's just really interesting to see what the body can do.
Okay. And you mentioned specifically core strength and postpartum.
Yeah.
And that's one area that I've seen a lot with women, just from my experience. So I guess what is safe, postpartum as far as core strength? Because I know that's one thing that a lot of women talk about. Like
Yeah.
they do feel weak in that area from what I've heard, and they do want to do as much as they can to try to rebuild that strength
Oh,
there.
100%. So I like to treat the early postpartum woman like they're still in the third trimester. So you're
Okay.
still not doing any crunching. You're not doing anything on your back where you're like really just getting those like leg lifts or anything like that, where you're really just adding too much pressure to your core. I would really focus on
Okay.
breath work, getting that 360 breath to coordinate everything like with your pelvic floor. A lot of people obsess over doing Kegels or
Right.
any pelvic floor work in pregnancy, but you actually want to relax your pelvic floor during
Okay.
pregnancy so you can allow for childbirth. But when it comes to the postpartum stages, yeah, you certainly want to be able to time that because your body's stretched for 9 months.
Mhm.
So having to recoordinate all the core, like that's the best thing that someone can do for their core when it comes to postpartum stages. Again, I'm not bashing crunches or sit-ups, but it's just not the most beneficial or functional exercise to do postpartum.
Sure. And one other thing that I thought of when you were talking there is you mentioned, you were pregnant, but you had another young child. So I guess just the idea of women being able to lift a certain amount of weight, and that I know that's been a misconception that I've heard quite a bit. And when women go into the gym and they shouldn't lift a lot of weight, but
Oh,
I mean, if you're picking up a young child all the time, I mean, that's a pretty decent amount of weight. So
absolutely.
what about that, and maybe some of the other misconceptions that you've had to deal with or
Aaron,
answer?
that I'm glad you brought that up because that is probably one of the biggest misconceptions that I've missed. Not lifting over 10 pounds.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know where that came from, but
Right.
I mean, functionally, like my daughter was 30 pounds when I was pregnant with
Yeah.
my son. So I had to learn how to properly hold her and
Right.
breathe and make sure I'm not like bearing down, but also to make sure that I knew how to properly hold her and not shift all my weight to one
Mm,
side or the other. So changing sides with her,
okay.
making sure it was functional. And that's why single-sided or unilateral exercises are so important. And I incorporate a lot of
Okay.
those in the book.
Right.
I talk about the importance of them because we are imbalanced as humans. We don't just do the same everything on each side, and doing those single-sided movements will help strengthen um everything. So yeah, as a mother having to carry around a toddler that's 30 pounds, I am all about the rack carry and the dumbbell on the other side, because when you got the kid on one side and the
Yeah.
groceries on the other, it's that's life.
That's awesome. What can you speak to in terms of, I'm sure, training women, spending so much time training at the level that you've been training. I'm sure there is a certain population that, wants to train strictly for aesthetics.
Of
Another
course.
side, what our conversation has been up to this point, training specifically for strength. Have you still seen kind of, I don't know, similar sides of that, where a number of people do want to train for aesthetics, a number of people do want to train for strength, or have you seen that kind of shift a little bit too as far as
I
women?
think that there are still plenty of women who train for aesthetics, and I think there's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with that.
Right.
I just like to always remind the women that I work with that the aesthetics will come as long as
Mhm.
you're focused on that strength training and incorporating that progressive overload, aka making sure that you're challenged every time you get a workout in. You don't want to do the same weight over and over and over, and it feels like easy. So for anyone that's tuning in, for example, if you are doing bicep curls, we'll keep it really simple here, and
Yeah.
you've done them week after week, week after week, 15 reps, and you're using 10-pound dumbbells, and like in 3 months those 10-pound dumbbells feel like a zero on that rate of perceived exertion
Mhm.
scale, you're probably not going to see many changes happen for your body. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, I think it's part to answer your question. This is my long answer because I talk a lot. I have seen a lot of
Okay.
people just really love the idea. I think specifically because I work with women to feel better when they work out, and they realize, oh my gosh, all of a sudden my jeans like look good.
Mhm.
Now I'm like my waist, like it's starting to come, and I think that that's where the mind shift really has to happen. But the aesthetics, like for me, I mean, I'll be honest. Like when I first had a Luna, I was like, oh, am I ever going to look like I did before? And I told myself, I'm a little older. I'm an older mom. So I thought to myself, maybe it won't, and it's okay. But when I stopped obsessing over what my body was going to look like and instead on how I wanted to feel,
Mhm.
I saw so many changes happen. And then the confidence in me just took over, and I didn't even care what size I was and what my butt looked like and
Right.
whatever. My husband still loves me, like no matter what. So it's just one of those things. I think the aesthetics, you just know that they're going to come no matter what, as long as you're working hard in the gym.
Right. No, exactly
And your
right.
nutrition, of course.
Right.
That's a whole other, that's a whole other thing.
That's a completely different book that we can do later. So I guess in terms of that, what have you seen, maybe personal stories anecdotally from working with women, about how maybe they did come in with one specific goal, and as they're introduced to different types of training or different exercises, maybe that mindset shifts to more of a, wanting to gain more confidence, wanting to get stronger, and kind of realizing how everything kind of works together.
Yeah, I had someone on my app recently that I really love. She shared a non-scale victory
Mhm.
that she's a single mom, and she mentioned that she has been doing all the workouts that I've introduced to her, and obviously she had aesthetics in mind, but then she really felt like she had a big win when she had been doing a walk with her daughter week after week and would be so winded by the end of it because it was a big
Mm.
hill and having to push up a stroller. But
Right.
after a few months, she said, Bettina, oh my gosh, I was able to go up this hill, not feel winded, but feel so confident.
Mhm.
So feeling that, I was just like, oh my goodness, this is more than a win. And I think that, she hasn't seen the scale number change,
Right.
but she has seen that change in her body and her spirit, and I know that there's so much more to come for that.
Right. That's an excellent example there. One more thing that I want to make sure that we get to. I actually saw a video on your Instagram page, but I think it's a great message and a great example of, everyone is busy. We're talking about women who might be mothers, busy with their children. Maybe they're busy with their careers. And it seems like exercise and fitness is usually one of the first things to go when we're trying to kind of coordinate our schedules. But something I loved about the video, it was a short video, but it relayed such a good message of, these are examples of things that you can do if you are busy and don't have a lot of time. So what would some recommendations be for someone that feels like they're too busy and just can't get in a workout?
Honestly, 15 minutes is something that I know that everybody has.
Yep.
Everybody has 15 minutes in the day. I mean, whether it's scrolling or just doing whatever you do, like you can prioritize that time. I think a lot of people need to prioritize just moving more throughout the day, whether it be to go for a quick walk outside because that vitamin D and just getting more movement throughout the day is really good. You can do a walking meeting.
Okay.
I love telling people to do walking meetings with people, walking coffee dates. But yeah, just incorporating as much simple movement in your day, whether it's taking the stairs when you're at the I love taking the stairs at the airport. Everyone looks at me like
Mhm.
I'm crazy carrying my
Yeah.
my suitcase up the stairs. Everyone's like, "What?" But I mean,
Yeah.
that's a mini workout in itself.
Right.
So just trying to
Right.
do as much as you can to get more movement and not obsess over something having to be this 30 to 45-minute workout. And if you're going to take the workouts in my book,
Mhm.
like you could specifically just take those little chunks, maybe get one set in instead of three, and that's okay if
Right.
that's all you have time for. I think a lot of us obsess over getting everything to be so perfect, but if you could just get a little bit more movement in more often, you're winning.
Okay. Awesome message there. Great recommendation. Our time has
Oh,
flown
I know.
by here, but
It's
you
because I
have
talk a lot.
but all great information that I appreciate. I know everyone listening appreciates. So I do want to thank you for your time. Like I said, it's been an excellent discussion. If For everyone listening, if you haven't got a copy yet, make sure to pick up your copy of Women's Muscle and Strength. I know it's available on our website, us.humankinetics.com, Amazon. I know it's in bookstores. So definitely pick up your copy. You're going to get a ton of information, a lot of things that we talked about today, so much more. Like I said a little earlier, color photos with exercise descriptions to make sure that you're doing everything correctly. Um, I will let you have the last word here. If here's another plug for you, I guess. Pick up the book, get all the great information that's in the book. But then, if you still need some help, contact Bettina, and she will help you out. I know that she is on an app that's going to help you out greatly, and you can connect there. So again, I'll give you the last word, and I thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Aaron. I thank you for all the intro, all the information. Yeah, so as he mentioned, I have an app called BGTV, and that in that app, I have a bunch of different follow along workouts. And then what I really love about the app is the community that I've built there. So not only do you get these amazing workouts, but you have an amazing community. You have access to me every single day to ask me questions, to upload videos of your form. So if you have my book and you want to make sure your form is good, I've got your back. So I wanted to find a way to scale my coaching to be able to help more people across the world. So I'd love to be able to help you on your journey. And that's all I got.